Max Verstappen just dropped a bomb, and McLaren's champs, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, are fuming. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku was supposed to be McLaren's safe weekend, Oscar leading the championship, Lando close behind. But what happened? A mess. And now everyone's talking about Verstappen's insane statement and how McLaren messed up big time. Is Verstappen going to pull off a miracle not seen since 2013's Vettel in a Red Bull, who so happens to have won the last 9 races to clinch the title? Verstappen is already 2 out of 9 races in. Let's rewind. Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, had what you'd call a nightmare weekend. It started in qualifying. He crashed in Q3 and only made it 9th on the grid. Then, at the start of the race, he jumped the start, tried to fix it, dropped back, and then locked up into the Turn 5 barrier. Just like that, his race was over. Crashed out on lap 1. No chance to fight back. "Not my finest moment," he said. But before that crash, he said the win was going to be ambitious. He wasn't being cocky, just real. He saw the car was quick, but he knew Baku was always going to be rough. Still, after all the chaos, there's been far too many mistakes from start to finish, Piastri admitted. Meanwhile, Lando Norris, his teammate and title challenger, did what he could, finished 7th. Not terrible, but far from what he needed. He said of Red Bull, "I think Red Bull is too quick. They're just as quick as us, easily." He saw the top speeds of Verstappen, saw Yuki Tsunoda up there too, and felt powerless. The Red Bull car was unbelievably fast in some parts of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Norris said. He tried to clarify. They weren't bad, but certain parts of the track, certain moments, the Red Bull just had more. "I had no chance to keep up with him in some areas of the track." And he wasn't lying. Wet conditions, tricky qualifying, water, rain, going out first on track, all stacked against McLaren. Norris said, "I think on ultimate pace we were still not bad this weekend. I don't think we had the pace of Red Bull, honestly." That was very, very clear. So now enter Max Verstappen's statement, the one that stirred up everything. He said, "I don't rely on hope, but it's 7 rounds left. 69 points is a lot. So I personally don't think about it, but I just go race by race, doing what I have been doing basically the whole season. Just trying to do the best we can, try to score the most points that we can. And then, after Abu Dhabi, we'll know." That line, cold, calm, but dangerous. Verstappen knows he's behind by a lot. He admits the gap is big, but the way he says he'll just keep going, race by race, trying to chip away, it hit like a warning flag, and McLaren knows it. Andrea Stella, the McLaren team boss, said Red Bull has taken upgrades, changed stuff, and might have unlocked performance. He's watching. They have taken a new floor in Monza, and they might be setting up their car slightly differently. Now Verstappen is talking about grounding much more than he was doing before, so they might have unlocked performance. Stella is saying, Verstappen's not just talking. The car seems better. The threat is real. Let's look at the math. Verstappen is now 69 points behind Oscar Piastri and 44 points behind Norris. 7 races left. Some people say it's unrealistic, but others say, if McLaren keeps messing up, maybe. McLaren's been strong this season. 12 wins out of 17 races. They've been dominating, making it look easy. But in Baku, everything went off track. For Piastri, execution errors. For Norris, pace, confidence, consistency. For both, lost chance. For everyone, the gap is shrinking. Verstappen smells blood. Now, Norris is angry, not at Verstappen necessarily, but at what McLaren allowed. Bad qualifying, slow pit stop, track position loss. He said, I don't really care how people look at it. If I had started second, I think I would have finished second. He knows he lost out due to factors that weren't just pure speed. He said, we clearly struggled a little bit this weekend. We still don't have the confidence we need. Oscar, likewise, he owns up. Probably a little bit from dirty air, but I know better than that. 2 simple errors on my behalf. He says this kind of weekend is rare. We clearly have things that are not good enough and that we have to keep working on them. He's upset, but clean. So when Verstappen goes and says he doesn't rely on hope, but will just keep pushing, it stings. Because for McLaren, all the safety they felt from leading the championship is gone. Pressure just spiked. The pressure didn't just spike, it exploded. Because now, McLaren isn't just defending a lead, they're defending themselves, their confidence, their image, their future. What was once a two-way battle between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris has now become something else entirely. A slow-burn thriller where Max Verstappen's silent and stalking is closing in. And here's the cruel irony. McLaren are still the fastest team overall. They've won 12 of the last 17 races. But now, that doesn't matter if they can't keep their own drivers from collapsing under pressure or stepping on each other's toes. The car is fast, but is the team ready for a real fight? Lando Norris doesn't think so. After Baku, he didn't hide it. He said, "I'm doing the best I can. I know I've still got a lot of points to make up against a pretty good driver, an incredible driver. I just need to keep my head down." You can feel the frustration behind those words, the pain of knowing he should have done better, the sting of watching Verstappen pull off another dominant win from pole while he sat trapped in 7th, unable to even pass a second-string Red Bull. He knows it could have been a different race. He said if he had started second, he probably would have finished second. But instead, a slow pit stop, an early qualifying run, changing conditions, all of it added up to disaster. And Max? He was flawless. Again. Then there's Piastri, the championship leader. Still. But for how long? His crash in qualifying, his poor start, his early crash in the race. Mistakes, one after the other. He admitted it. Every single session has been messy. For a guy who's usually so composed, this weekend rattled him. And that's the part that should scare McLaren most, because Verstappen's strength isn't just raw speed, it's the way he waits, the way he watches. He doesn't force his way in, he waits for you to trip. Andrea. Stella, McLaren's boss, tried to sound calm, but even he couldn't help but sound the alarm. Red Bull are a very serious contender to win races, and a very serious contender for the Drivers' Championship. So, what happens now? 7 races remain. 3 sprint weekends, and a 69-point gap between Piastri and Verstappen that once felt safe, but now feels flimsy. And that's if McLaren's 2 drivers don't start tearing each other apart. Oscar and Lando have stayed professional. So far. But that's the thing about title fights within the same garage. They're fine until they're not. And the more Max wins, the tighter it gets. The more one McLaren driver loses out, the more desperate they become. Oscar said, "I'm not going to rule Max out, but I'm honestly not too concerned with that. I'm just trying to bounce back from this weekend." But you can't ignore Max. He's not just a fast driver. He's a psychological weapon. You don't have to look at him to feel him. And now, both McLaren drivers can feel that pressure crawling up their necks. Even when asked about whether he missed a chance to close the gap on Oscar, Norris snapped back. "I don't really care how people look at it. That's not calm confidence. That's frustration barely being held in check." And here's the kicker. Verstappen himself doesn't even sound bothered. He said he's not relying on hope. He's just going race by race. Just trying to do the best we can, score the most points we can, and then after Abu Dhabi, we'll know. That's it. No shouting, no drama, just clinical execution. He's already beaten teams from worse positions. If anyone can flip a 69-point gap in 7 rounds, it's him. And don't forget the history. Lando Norris was 59 points behind Verstappen at this stage last year. Nobody thought he could challenge Max, and he didn't. But now, Max is behind Oscar by 69, and nobody's ruling it out. The tables have turned. So the question is, what happens when your biggest threat isn't just faster, but calmer? What happens when you're leading the championship, but you're the one making the mistakes? What happens when the guy you thought was out of it is suddenly everywhere? Max Verstappen isn't supposed to win this title, but he wasn't supposed to win Baku either. He wasn't supposed to win Monza. And yet, here we are. McLaren are on edge, their fans are nervous, and Verstappen, he's smiling. So let's end with this. What's more dangerous? Being the hunter, or being the prey that just realized it's being hunted? Let us know in the comments. Because this title fight, it's only just begun.